This is Notes 8.4, Special Right Triangles, Part 2. This picture here, number 7, this is a 45, 45, 90 because it's a right triangle, and these two are both the same length because they're both x. So identify the length of the side that you know. We know opposite 90. And a 45, 45, 90, opposite 90 is the short leg times the square root of 2. If we divide both sides by the square root of 2, we get the short leg is 3. So that means each of these are 3. Finished. Number 8, I kind of messed up on this one. My apologies. This should say 45 degrees. It should say 45 degrees. Number 9, these should say 45 as well. If it didn't say that, you wouldn't know it was a 45, 45, 90. Pretty sure none of the homework is messed up like that. And a 45, 45, 90, opposite 90 is the short leg times the square root of 2. So if we write that equation out, this one takes a little bit more work than most. Try to get short leg by itself. We divide both sides by the square root of 2. Square root of 8 divided by the square root of 2 is the square root of 4. Short leg is the square root of 4, which is 2. Let me add one more step to this if that didn't make sense. If we divide both sides by the square root of 2, like so, if you're dividing two radicals and the numbers on the inside of the radicals have common factors, you can divide those. That's how we got square root of 4. Once we know the short leg is 2, well, these are both short legs. So those are both 2. Number 9, the hypotenuse is the short leg times the square root of 2. I'm going to write that equation out. Short leg, square root of 2 equals 5 square roots of 6. And divide both sides by the square root of 2 to get the short leg by itself. On the right, square root of 6 divided by the square root of 2 is the same thing as asking what's 6 divided by 2. We get 5 square roots of 3. So each of these are 5 square roots of 3. Make sure my work doesn't run into my answer. Number 10. Without saying it's a 45, 45, 90, we know this one is because these legs are the same and it's 90. Isosceles triangle theorem says that that makes the base angles the same. 90 cut in half is 45 and 45. 8 is the short leg times the square root of 2. In every 45, 45, 90, the hypotenuse is the short leg times the square root of 2. If you make that equation and try to solve it, divide both sides by the square root of 2. You are not allowed to have radicals, square roots, on the bottom of fractions. It's an irrational number. We want to rationalize the denominator. What I'm going to show here in blue is optional to show, although it's not optional to do. The numerator is going to be 8 times the square root of 2. If you're multiplying a non-radical times a radical, you have to leave it on the outside, the 8. The bottom, square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2. Let me give you a couple reasons why that's true. You could think of this as the square root of 4, which is 2. You could think of it as the square root of 2 squared. The square root and the squared, kind of inverse operations, they kind of cancel out. So then we get the short leg, 8 divided by 2 is 4 square roots of 2. So that's what x is. That's obviously what x is. See a few more examples of 30, 60, 90s. Take the side that you're given, and that could be a short leg, the long leg, or the hypotenuse, and set it equal to what you've memorized. In this case, opposite 30 is the short leg. Well, that makes this real easy. Opposite 90 is always twice the short leg. 7 times 2 is 14. Opposite 60 is the short leg times the square root of 3. So that's 7 square roots of 3. Number 12, we are given the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse opposite 90 is the short leg times 2. Which means if we divide both sides by 2, the short leg is 5. Opposite 30 is the short leg. It's 5. Opposite 60 Again, 30, 60, 90 is the short leg times the square root of 3. Finished. Number 13, we are given the short leg times the square root of 3. That's opposite 60. That's 8 square roots of 3. If you divide both sides by the square root of 3, you get the short leg is 8. The hypotenuse is twice that, so it's 16. Number 14, we are given opposite 60. That's the short leg times the square root of 3. I'm just going to write that down over here so I have more room. To get the short leg by itself, I divide both sides by the square root of 3. To rationalize my denominator, I'm going to multiply by 1 in the form of square root of 3 over square root of 3. What you see in blue is optional work. You have to do it, but you don't have to show it. The top is 9 times the square root of 3. At the bottom, the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 means the square root of 9, which is 3. You can divide 9 by 3. The short leg is 3 square roots of 3. Opposite 30 is the short leg. Opposite 90 is twice that big. That's 6 square roots of 3. That concludes the second part of this. Please do the 8.4 homework.